Welcome to the Block Party. My name is Seth Kushner. Today, joined by a Hall of Famer. You know him for many, many things. Maybe NHL 15, maybe TNT right now. Eddie O, welcome to the Block Party.
Hey, Seth. Nice to be with you. Thanks for having me, and hope everything is well in your world.
Everything's very good. I appreciate you asking. And I always want to ask some of the guys that aren't playing anymore, did your kids think you were cool when you were on the video game back in the day, or have they ever thought you were cool?
Yeah, that might be the only time my kids ever thought I was cool, when I was working with my former legendary partner, the Hockey Hall of Famer, the great Doc Emrick. We did the NHL EA Sports game, I think, for almost 5 or 6 years. And I think at that time, I became known as the guy, hey, that's the guy on the video game, instead of the guy that played 16 years in the NHL, played in the Olympics as a 17-year-old back in 1984, longtime broadcaster. And but that's okay. And a guy that does a little horse racing on the side as well. So, I think maybe for that stretch, I was probably a little higher on the totem pole than I probably normally am with my kids. That's for sure.
Did you ever play the game NHL, or it doesn't strike me like you're the kind of video game guy?
No. I mean, as a kid, I played a lot of video games. I'm much older than you, so I played. I was really into Space Invaders and playing pinball. And
okay.
I tell everybody a lot, Seth, is that I think I had pretty good hand-eye coordination as a kid growing up, and then eventually making it to the National Hockey League. I played baseball as well. But I think that playing pinball for me was really one of those things that I think really helped take my hand-eye coordination from here to here, was playing pinball, because, you got the flippers down low, and you got to watch where the pinball's going and be able to work your hand and your eyes and knowing and anticipating. And I don't want to say I was a pinball wizard, a la Elton John, but I really think that, playing video games, for me anyways, especially pinball, helped me not only playing baseball, but playing a game of hockey. But really nothing, over the course of the last probably, 25 or 30 years where I'm sitting in front of TV. And I'll play baseball with my youngest son on the video game every once in a while. He'll want me to be his pitching coach there and be able to, call pitches and whatever. But no, not really. Not a lot of time. I'd rather watching the horses on my TV than playing video games.
There you go. Well, listen, I hope it's okay. I'm going to open up a hockey hand-eye coordination school with only pinball machines, and I'm going to slap your name on it. I'll give you 50%, Eddie, but I've got a plan all of a sudden. Thank you for that.
Hey, I'm good. I believe it. We see some of the greatest athletes in our sport that have incredible athleticism, and and a lot of it wasn't. I just speak for myself. A lot of that was God-given. There's no doubt about it. But I worked at it. I did a lot. I put the work in as a young kid, where after school I would come home and just shoot pucks, in the garage or in our basement, and just shoot hundreds and hundreds of pucks an hour, and just working on that aspect of it. And then also too, is just kind of, having that ability to play other sports, and then, kind of thinking that, probably after the fact, maybe not in the moment, Seth, is that when I was spending a lot of time at the arcade. And look, at the arcades where I was hanging out, we're at the hockey rinks. You have a hockey rink, and then you have an arcade with some vending machines, and you'd have the pinball games there, you had the car racing games or whatever it might be. And you have Miss Pac-Man. I was playing that a lot on the video game as well. So I do believe is that kind of when I put it all back and put it in the blender and kind of really dissect it, is I think that had a hand in whatever success I had in National Hockey League, of being able to get there and work on the hand-eye coordination, even though I wasn't playing a game of hockey.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Eddie, I want to know what's it like to be with TNT this year? Because you obviously, you're not really going to an office, you're going to the games, you're on camera. Yeah. Do you get to hang out with Shaq and Charles Barkley and those guys? Can you tell a difference, or when you just get, behind the mic and call a game, like you don't know what network you're with?
Yeah, look, for the first part of your question, I have not had the privilege yet to be in our studios down in Atlanta and see the NBA guys. I did meet Shaq the year I played in LA when I played in LA. I had a cup of coffee with the Kings back in the mid 90s and 96. And of course, Shaq was there and got a chance to come across him a couple of times. I met Charles at Mario Lemieux's golf tournament in Pittsburgh a couple of times.
Wow.
But it's nice to be a part of their family, right? Like when you think about TNT, you think about the NBA on TNT and, not only the great talent, on the road, but also the studio show, right? Like everybody looks at that show and goes like, that's the premier, pre and intermission and post game studio show there is in all of professional sports on television. And, now to have hockey there and be a part of the TNT family and Warner Media Sports is just a great thrill. And, to be on the road and working with a couple of guys that I know extremely well from our days at NBC, with Kenny Albert and Keith Jones. And it's just great to have them on the road and be with them. But, the last part of your question is look at when we're in the building, it's just like, I think, anybody else that does their job, it's like, you just get in the zone and you do your thing. And however it's coming across on whatever network you're going to try to do the best that you can and try to be the best analyst in hockey every night. And most importantly, have fun and entertain. I mean, really, that's what it is, because it's not, we all know what's going on in the real world. I mean, all we have to do is turn on our evening news and realize that, what we're doing is entertainment and not take it too serious. Yeah, we want to be the best at what we do, but in the big picture, it's a very small part of the real world. And people that work from 6 till 6 every day, when they come home and turn on a hockey game, we want to help them get away from the real world for a little while. And that's kind of always been my goal and my focus is to entertain, tell them something that maybe they didn't realize. And when they turn off the game, that they were entertained for a couple of hours. So, we take it very serious, but I don't think that we take it too serious where, if you make a mistake, you make fun of yourself. And I think that for me, Seth, is the one thing when I try to talk to young aspiring broadcasters or people that maybe want to get into the business, whether it's young men or young women, it's like, I think humility is a great quality to have. Look, if you make a mistake on live television or live radio or whatever it is, it's okay to make fun of yourself and bring light to it. There's no sense of hiding or running from it, maybe hoping, that maybe people don't notice. Is my former great partner, I made mention of it earlier, Doc Emrick, said to me a couple of times, is like, look, once you say it, Seth, it's off to Mars. So you're never really getting it back. And if you make a mistake, it's okay to own up to it. And I think that's how people appreciate humility. They appreciate honesty. I think they appreciate people that can make fun of themselves. And, look, if I call a wrong penalty or I call a wrong goal, or, I think maybe Coop should call a timeout and he doesn't, and the Lightning score, well then, hey, you know what? You own up to it and say, hey, you know what? It worked out. And that's why he's won a couple of Stanley Cups and one of the elite coaches in the National Hockey League. So I think that's kind of the mindset that I've always had. And I think for us at TNT, it's been a smooth transition. Hopefully people are enjoying the broadcast, and very lucky to be able to do what I've been doing here since the spring of 06. I've been the lead hockey analyst for the NHL on NBC, and this will be my first year, believe it or not, Seth. This will be my first Stanley Cup final I will not be a part of since the 06-07 Stanley Cup. And I worked Edmonton, Carolina in the studio that year. That was the first year I was with NBC. And then the following year, I think it was Anaheim, Ottawa, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me, but I've pretty much done every final since then. So this will be the first Stanley Cup final in a boatload of years that I will not be a part of. So I'll be a fan. I'll be watching on TV, and my summer will start a little bit earlier because we don't have the Stanley Cup on TNT this year. It's on ESPN. Next year we'll have the Stanley Cup final. So I will be well rested for the Stanley Cup final in the 22-23 season. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm not gonna, get ahead of ourselves here, but why not? Come on down. I'm sure the Stanley Cup final will be in Tampa again. We'll get you some tickets. It's great down here, Eddie. We'll go play some golf or something. I don't play golf, but I just like to hang out with you. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So, we'll hook you up with that. Something I wanted to know, and I talked to Kenny Albert about this in the playoffs last year, and he wanted to kind of reassure everybody that you guys don't have any rooting interest at all. Lightning fans over the years have been a little bit sensitive. I do speak for a lot of the Lightning. I don't speak for Lightning fans, but a lot of them have felt like commentators lean against them when they're listening to a game or they're watching a game or something like that. And Kenny wanted to reassure me that you guys have no rooting interest. What opposing teams fans do you hear from the most that feel like you're rooting against their team?
Honestly, I mean, I've never had that come from any of the Lightning fans at all. I've never had that. I think where I get it a lot is teams that I have played for, and I played for a lot of teams, so I've gotten a lot of it. That that if those teams are partaking or playing, or they're going up against another team of a rival, they feel like it's one-sided. Now, the best part about that is that I hear it from the other side as well, is that, oh, wow, you're not cheering for the team because you're trying to be involved. So, look, I don't have a rooting interest when I'm doing games. I don't. I mean, I full disclosure, I do games for Chicago locally, in the market in Chicago, working for the Blackhawks and doing games on television. But look, I'd like to think that I call the game and I have the same opinion regardless of who's playing in it. And I think the greatest compliment is that when you have both fan bases think that you're cheering for the other side, you're pointing out negatives on both sides. And it's not even just the negative part. It's just like you're pointing out things, or, look, at fans are fans, and sometimes they hear what they want to hear, but I think it can be fun. It can, as long as it's respectful, as long as it doesn't cross the line. And sometimes I've had fans, cross the line in certain situations, but all I can do is try to be consistent in what I see. It doesn't matter, what the sweater is. It doesn't matter what the player is. I did an outdoor game, and we did an outdoor game in Hamilton a couple of days ago between Toronto and Buffalo. And Austin Matthews, I played for Toronto for 3+ years. Austin Matthews made a reckless play. He cross-checked Rasmus Dahlin in the neck, and it was a bad play. It was retaliatory for whatever reason. That's not in his character, but he made a bad play. And I said that was a suspendable play. And I would say the same thing if that was a Buffalo Sabre or a Blackhawk or a Lightning. And that's just that's what we get paid to do. So I don't get too caught up in really on what fans are saying, so to speak. But I'd like to think and hope that with all the years is that people would listen. At least for me, I can't speak for anybody else. Is that you can disagree with opinion or whatever, but I think for the most part it's down the middle, and try to be very fair, because at the end of the day, that's what we're getting paid to do, is to call what we see. And there's going to be people that agree and disagree. So for me, Seth, I'd like to think we build up as much credibility as we have by being, so-called neutral, doing all these games all these years.
Eddie, and also I will speak for some of the Lightning fans when I'll say we're very sensitive. We're insane. We're crazy, and the 2 Stanley Cups have helped us the last couple of years feel like we've got the recognition we deserve. But, when you're down 4-1 in a playoff game, who else are you going to be angry at other than the announcers? We lost, the Lightning lost a game to the Panthers in the playoffs last year. I think Spencer Knight, a young kid, had a great game. And Dave Randorf, a local guy, was like getting excited because the kid was making some unbelievable saves, and our fans were blaming Dave Randorf for the Lightning losing. So it's absolutely insane. So that's why I wanted to just throw that question your way.
No worries at all.
Okay, so you've mentioned Doc Emrick a couple of times. What did you learn from Doc over the years? Was there one? I'm sure there was too many to name. Was there one takeaway that you have from working with Doc?
Wow. I probably not one. The one I'll probably bring up, and then it'll probably morph into a couple of things, Seth. But I think Doc, just his absolute love and passion for every era of NHL hockey is second to none. I think it was very infectious to be his partner. I got the opportunity to take over for John Davidson, who left the booth to go and become the team president of the St. Louis Blues back in the 06-07 season. And I got the task of trying to fill the shoes of John Davidson, who I think is the best hockey analyst that the National Hockey League has ever had on national television. And to know how great JD and Doc were. and then to get the opportunity to try to fill those, JD was a former goaltender with the Rangers, try to fill those goaltender skates. And I knew I was never going to be able to do that, but to bring my own style, and Doc helped me out immensely of just making me feel very comfortable. I mean, look, it's a very intimidating chair to sit in. You're sitting into not only a hockey legend, as you know, Seth, but also a broadcasting legend. And Doc is just so well regarded and loved by, pretty much everybody. And but I think his preparation, his communication with the players and the coaches and relationships, really realizing how important that is to build that trust amongst the players, and to have the courage to be able to go into those locker rooms after, calling a 5-1 loss or a 5-1 win, is to make sure is that, people see you, make sure that you're visible. So if anybody has a bone to pick, not only fans, but also players and coaches that could be, and managers that can be overly sensitive at times. And I'm proud to say that I was a coach and a player at times, and probably was overly sensitive. But I think to learn that, hey, they have a job to do. And as long as it's not personal, and I think that's what I probably learned from Doc the most, is look, you got a job to do. You sell the game, you help promote the game. But how can you be different than all the other broadcasters and analysts? And I think just that trust, but the relationship of, I miss, besides the games, which are very important in our relationship, Seth, is I miss the dinners. I miss the the Uber. It used to be taxis and limos. Now they're Uber rides. I miss those rides to the airport with Doc, or sitting at the airport waiting, and just talking about life, just talking about family, talking about baseball, talking about, I'm proud to say I think I turned Doc into a horse racing degenerate over the years, with me being a horse racing guy and Doc getting his feet wet every once in a while on horse racing. And we actually won a 50-50 one night in Detroit at the old Joe Louis Arena in a game that I think we split like $9,700 in a game one night. And of course, we were all excited, in that third period when we won. But, I think, people ask me about Doc and how did you know that he had accepted you? And I really never had thought about that, but when you have somebody that is so well regarded, as I mentioned, he was doing an article, I think it's probably going on maybe 8 or 9 years ago now. And it's probably the pinnacle and probably the highest compliment that I've been paid as a broadcaster, is that, the reporter asked Doc, your relationship with Edzo, how would you describe it, and where is it, morphed into, and how organic it's been from day one until, maybe 10 years in. And Doc said, verbatim, he said, Seth, he said, I hope when Edzo is 60, he has someone that takes care of him as he has taken care of me. And when I heard that, Seth, I was like, wow, okay, 10 years, I've arrived, I've got the stamp of approval from, like I said, arguably, the greatest hockey broadcaster that's ever lived, and arguably one of the greatest broadcasters in all of sports. And for me, that's when I really felt like, hey, I've done good, I've gotten that stamp of approval from Doc Emrick. And I miss him every day. Hockey misses him for sure, but I am so happy for him and his wife Joyce, and he is at peace. He's happy that baseball is back, because he's a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
so.
I lived in the Berg for 9 years, so I'm a Cubs fan. I waited 54 years of my life, or 108 years, but for me, waiting my whole life for the Cubs to win a World Series, I think probably, I guess it was 50 plus years, but I think just that relationship with Doc, even more so out of the booth, Seth, is what I miss the most. And I still talk to him, and I always kind of just throw a line in the water every once in a while. I go, Doc, you getting a little frisky there? You maybe want to, little guest role of, maybe calling a hockey game again or whatever. I think we probably got a better chance of Doc calling a baseball game than we got of calling a hockey game. But
we'll take it.
But he was great for me and my family and my career, and I'll be forever grateful and so proud to have been his partner for. I think we worked together. I think officially it was 15 years that we did games together.
Where did you work out of during the pandemic? Did you work out of your house?
Both. I worked out of a studio and I worked out of right where I'm sitting right now in my basement. Yeah. So
how tough was that for you?
I mean, yeah, it wasn't great, but I mean, you did what you could, right? We all have to play the hand that was dealt over the course of the last couple of years, and just so thankful that we were able to bring hockey to our fans. Yeah, being in a building is second to none, but at least we had a chance and want to keep everybody safe and call those games. So, I mean, it was hard. I mean, it was hard to have Doc's last game, have him be at home and not, be in the building. But, look, that was just the reality, and we had to deal with it. And it was fun to be a part of his last game with myself and Brian Boucher, who's now over at ESPN doing the games. And of course, Doc, doing those games. And, but it was challenging, I mean, technical difficulties and, delays and whatever, but it beat the alternative. It beat not having hockey, and certainly very proud to have been a small part of doing. I hope we never do it again, but if we can bring our fans hockey, and that's the way we have to do it, then we'll find a way to do it.
Just tell me, when those delays and like the over talking and stuff's happening, when you guys would go to commercial break, would Doc ever cuss anybody out, or he was just way too classy of a guy? When things would happen like that, it wouldn't even bother him.
No, I'll just leave it as I've seen Doc get upset at a couple of times, and it was kind of just zeroed in at a certain individual. But I'll just leave it at that. And, but no, Doc is like when he's doing it, like, I think everybody knows to give Doc his space, and he's very much in his zone and his preparation, hours and days before. It's like his preparation. Somebody asked me, like, how would Doc prepare? I go, Doc starts preparing when Doc time, like at the end of a game, the last 3 minutes of a hockey game is Doc time. And he just, like I said, he was a wealth of knowledge and had all his notes in front of him. And I still so blessed to have sat next to him for as long as I did, for as many years, and to be a part of his last game is certainly a little hockey history, that's for sure.
Did you gift him one of your bobbleheads? I want to know, how many of your bobbleheads do you have? Because I was looking on eBay before I interviewed you, and they're going for between about $15 and $25, a fair price. Yeah. But I thought maybe I could get one for free if you have any lying around. Where are all the bobbleheads, Eddie?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of people are using them as hood ornaments on their vehicles now. They're very popular in certain areas of the country, especially in Chicago and in Winnipeg, a couple of places where I laid my hat for a boatload of years. Target practice, I hear, for some kids shooting pucks in their basement, in their garage. But if you really, really, really want an Eddie Olczyk bobblehead, I think I could make a call, and we can find a way to express it down there to you, and it won't cost. Now, the 15 or 25, is that Canadian dollars, or are we talking U.S. funds?
We're talking U.S. with a hefty $9.95 shipping and handling.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now Canadian, we're looking at like maybe $40 Canadian, and that sounds a little better. Like 40 and 30 sounds a little better than 15 and 25, but. I don't even know. I don't even think you probably can't even get a tank of gas anymore for $40. So
no, we'll call it, Eddie. We'll say that it's worth 10 million yen. I think that really is going to drive up the price of it. So, listen, Eddie, I had a question for you, and obviously, you came out and you were honest about your cancer diagnosis a few years ago, and you said after that you felt like that was your purpose, was to help people going through it, help people stay away from it. I wanted to know, did you feel like you had a purpose before that?
Yeah. Great question. I felt that, I always tried, look, at first and foremost, from within family, is you always try to be someone that your kids can look up to, right? I have four, we call them humans now, because my oldest son has two children himself. So I became the best thing about the pandemic is I became a grandfather 2 times over during the pandemic. My granddaughter, Audrey Marie, was born on July 7th of 20. And my grandson, my namesake, another Eddie Olczyk, came into this world on 9/9 on September 9th of 21. So
congrats.
I do play 7/7 and 9/9 a lot. So when I'm playing the horses, whether I'm playing, on the online or at the racetrack, but look, I think I always took my part in society as a former hockey player and a coach and as a broadcaster, somebody that could be somebody that young people could look up to and not necessarily idolize, but look up to and learn from. And I chose to live my life a certain way when I was a young kid, Seth. Like I never did drugs and I never drank. I just chose to live my life that way and didn't succumb to a lot of peer pressure that a lot of young people come across their feet as they're growing up. And I would tell stories to young people, and they would always ask us, that I find it hard to say no to people, because the peer pressure of saying, oh, come on, people make fun of you now with social media, the bullying that goes on or the bullying that goes in amongst crowds for young people. So I think I did as a young person or, for younger people when I was, became a national hockey leaguer and then in the world of broadcasting. But first and foremost, it's just trying to be somebody that my kids could look up to and respect. But, once I did get sick back in 2017, I mean, I can't believe it's been, it's going on almost 5 years since I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. Is that I think what I tried to do, and in the Cliff Notes version of it, Seth, is to inspire people that are in battles, inspire people that have been given awful news, but then to also let people know is that even though I was at my lowest, even though I didn't want to die, even though I was afraid, is to let people know that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to raise your hand and say, geez, you know what? I don't feel good. Or raise your hand and say, you know what? I need some help. And for me, coming out of that battle, people ask me the obvious question, besides being very thankful and blessed that I'm still here today, is that, do you look at life differently now since you've gone through your cancer battle? And I think the only thing that I look at differently is maybe petty things of sitting in traffic or somebody cutting you off or a plane being 2 hours late. Like that stuff doesn't bother me as much as it maybe did. But I think the one thing for me that I always, and I don't know where I learned this, is that prior to me getting sick, I always would let the most important people in my life know how I felt about them, Seth. I would always let them know that, hey, God forbid, if something would happen for me, I need you to know that my life has been better with you in it. I love you unconditionally. I love you forever. I want you to know that. And the same reaction would be from my wife or my kids or my closest friends or coworkers, and say, stop talking like that. Nothing's going to happen. But really, and in big picture, Seth, we're all day to day. When Coop gives an update on, Ryan McDonough or Cooch or Braden Point or Corey Perry or the Big Rig, like when he says, they're day to day, like, I laugh because I go, well, Coop, we're all day to day, really, when you think about it, because we really don't know. And, coming out of that cancer in answering that question is, do you look at life differently? And I'll be honest with you, Seth, I don't. And I think what it reassured me, Eddie Olczyk, and my family, and I'm going to get to my wife in a second if I can, but
yes,
is I think what it reassured me was I was in a really good place before I was sick. And if I wasn't able to come through, if I didn't have the support that I had, or the cancer just won the battle, is that I was going to be able to close my eyes while I was going through 6 months of hell of chemotherapy and not knowing what was on the other side, is that when I closed my eyes at night, I was at peace, because the most important people in my life knew how I felt about them. And I think that helped me get through So long-winded, I think I thought I was in a good place before I got sick, but I sure in the hell know now is that I was in a very good place prior to me getting sick. And the one thing I know is that when I was ready to quit, and I had never quit at anything in my life, whether people told me I was, an American-born kid that couldn't make the U.S. Olympic hockey team in 1984 as a 16-year-old, or people told me I would never make it to the NHL because I was a kid from Chicago, and kids from Chicago don't make it to the NHL, or people told me I would never be the first lead American-born hockey analyst on national television in the United States. I didn't do those things to prove people wrong. I just did it because I believed that I could with an opportunity. But I always believed in myself, and I never quit. I mean, I'd go to the racetrack and I'd lose, I'd be down $200. Seth, I wouldn't be quitting. Well, okay, scratch that. If I was down 2,000, I wasn't quitting because I was going to try to get back even, right? But when I was going through my cancer battle, and anybody that's been touched by this disease or knows and goes through it knows what I'm talking about, is that, cancer and chemo test your will to live. And there was a point during my second treatment where the side effects just brought me to my knees. I'm sitting probably 8.5 feet from the area where my wife, Diana, had she gave me the greatest inspirational speech I had in any locker room, any basement, any business office that I ever had. I was ready to quit in my second treatment, and I had 11 to go.
Oh my.
And I would just go to the bathroom without having to go to the bathroom. I would just literally crap the floor. I developed a blood clot. I would have nosebleeds. I had neuropathy in my fingers and my feet. I would have terrible headaches. And I'm like, how am I going to get through today? Let alone, how am I going to get through 11 more treatments? And my wife gave me the greatest inspirational speech I ever had. And she looked at me right 8.5 feet from here, Seth, and she just looked at me. And I had tears in my eyes, and she looked at me and said, look, you got to fight. You got to fight for me. You got to fight for our 4 kids, and you got to fight for all the people that love you. And when she said that to me, I cried for 35 minutes of our 30-minute conversation, if you know what I mean. And I needed that. Like, I needed that support. And we need to make sure we're taking care of the caretakers and caregivers of people that are in a battle. It just isn't cancer. It could be anything. Is that, hey, how are you doing? Because I never saw my wife down, Seth. I never saw my wife worried around me. But I know that when I would spend 17 hours of the day here in the basement and being by myself and taking my chemo, because I took chemo 48 hours every 2 weeks. I took a shot of chemo for 4 hours at the hospital every other Monday. And then they would send me home with a fanny pack, and I would have chemo go off every 90 seconds for the next 48 hours. And then they would come and unhook me. And, I never saw my wife down around me. I never saw her worried, but I know, when she would let her guard down, I'm sure she was wondering what the hell was going to happen for me, and if I was going to die, and if I was going to make it. And, we had unbelievable support. So I would encourage anybody out there that knows people that are in a battle, that they're caretakers and caregivers, is to make sure we're looking out after them as well. Not only the people that are ill, but the caretakers and caregivers are going through a whole heck of a lot. And I know, Seth, and like I said, I never quitted anything in my life, but I was at my lowest. And if my wife was not with me at that time, I'm not embarrassed to say this, I probably would have quit, because it tested my will to live. And at that particular time, I was at my lowest. And if my wife was not there with me, I could pretty much venture to say is that I would not be with you here today talking to you. And I needed that. I needed that support, and my kids and my family and the Blackhawks and the NHL and all of my friends. I mean, Coop would call me a boatload of times. John Tortorella, legend in Tampa, a longtime coach in the league, former Lightning Stanley Cup coach. He would reach out. I was very lucky that had a lot of people reach out and support me, and I needed that. But I was at my lowest, and my wife gave me that speech and helped me kind of get back my mentality of, okay, we're all day to day. I'm going to put my hockey helmet on, and I'm just going to worry. I'm not going to worry about 10 treatments from now, Seth. I'm just going to worry about tomorrow. And I think that helped me kind of get my feet back under me. And here we are, hard to believe, almost 4 years and a couple of weeks later, where I was, diagnosed clean and clear from cancer. And hopefully that people that hear my story can relate and be inspired, and hopefully make a difference in somebody's life, not only going through it, but also to stay away from it, like making sure that, hey, once you turn the age of 45, is that you got to go see a doctor and you got to get a colonoscopy. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And for me, I just hope I can make a difference in one person's life. And if I did, then it was well worth me sitting here with you for 45 minutes and sharing my story, or having shared my story the last 4+ years.
No, I appreciate that. And listen, I was on the verge of tears the whole time. So I appreciate you continuously talking. So I didn't have to jump in there. But yeah, that's the whole thing is very emotional. And shout out to Mrs. O for making you, see things that way. And I liked it that we're all day to day. One last question for you. I could probably spend all day talking to you. You're a busy guy. You mentioned that you have 4 kids, grandkids. Yeah. Are a couple of your kids, are they in college playing hockey? And I wanted to know, how do you keep up with them? How do you watch their games?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was difficult. I mean, it was difficult, but that's what you do, because it's unconditional and you're a hockey dad, and you find a way to either watch on the internet or you show up at a hockey rink. My oldest son, Eddie, he played college hockey at UMass Amherst, and then he became a assistant coach at Bemidji State, and now he's a amateur scout for the Seattle Kraken. They only live about 3 miles away. Oh, wow. My son Tommy played for Penn State. He was on the very first Penn State Division I hockey team there. He's the first captain there, so I got a chance to go see him play. Now he's a full-blown CPA. And my youngest son Nick played a couple of years of college hockey at Colorado College. Now he's been an aspiring broadcaster. He was doing games in the minors in Indy for the Fuel for the last 3 years. And then he got the call up to the National Hockey League to do some radio work for the Blackhawks. Unfortunately, my former teammate and my great friend Troy Murray is in a battle himself. He's battling cancer, and Troy's not been able to work a lot this year. So my son Nick got a chance to come up, and he's gotten a couple of games to fill in for Troy. So my family has been hook, line, and sinker with hockey our whole life. And I do have to mention, I have my daughter Alexandra, who's very much into the car industry and builds websites for automobile dealerships. So the Olczyk family is doing very well. And like I said, two grandchildren now, and keep an eye on Eddie Olczyk. Actually, there's 4 Eddie Olczyks. My dad is still alive. He's an Eddie. I'm an Eddie, obviously. My son's an Eddie. And now we have another Eddie Olczyk. So look for the 2039 NHL entry draft. Maybe another Eddie Olczyk makes it to the NHL, and maybe he gets an opportunity to play in the greatest league in the world.
I like that. Or a reality show, Keeping Up with the Olczyks. I heard the Kardashians are going off the air, so that could be something too. Or, maybe it could be like LeBron James. He wants to play, a year with his son when his son comes out. Maybe you get to call a game with your son one day. That'd be very cool.
If we're doing the math here, that mean I'd need to keep going another, 17 plus years of doing games. So do I think that's going to be in the cards? Probably not. But at that time, if that indeed is the case, I'm just looking forward to taking maybe my granddaughter wants to play hockey too. Or maybe she wants to become an Olympian and play for Team USA and play in the Olympics or whatever it is. I'm going to be one of those proud granddads that are going to be at the rink, at the pool, at the ball field a lot. And because I know, I lost my mom in August of this year. And, that was obviously very difficult. And just think about, the world in general, just, people talk about how small the world is. Seth, is I lost my mom in August, and we buried my mom on September 8th. And my grandson, my namesake, was born the next day, which kind of really it's eerie, but it's a beautiful thing with the spirit of my mom, and knowing that, she passed on to my grandson. And it was a very emotional time, obviously, for all of us. But I know I had great support as a kid from my mom and my dad, always being at all my games. And I'd like to think that even though as busy as I was as a player and coach, as a broadcaster, is that I was able to be at all of my kids' games, along with my wife. And now I'm going to try to do what my mom and dad did for my kids, of being around a lot at all of their events, to have that strong support. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it's like I said, selfishly and individually, the best part about the pandemic is that I became a grandfather 2 times over. So something good, something positive came out of that crazy time we were all living in.
Listen, Eddie, I appreciate you sharing your story. You're an incredible inspiration, man. Keep going. I'm glad that you're in good health right now. Thank you for everything. Congrats on being with TNT. And we didn't even get a chance to really talk about the Lightning, but you worked in some references, but who cares? They're going to be fine. The Lightning are going to be fine. They're going to figure it out. They're too talented. So Eddie, listen, man, you're a deep guy. Thank you for sharing all that today. Really, really enjoyed the conversation.
Anytime, Seth. God bless you, and stay safe. And I look forward to getting down there to Tampa and calling a few more playoff games before it's all said and done this year.